The day Linda Carter walked back into our town, I was standing in line at a gas station with $11 in my pocket, trying to decide between a sandwich and enough gas to get to my job interview. Then my phone rang. It was my best friend, Marcus. "She's back," he said, just like that, 2 words, like they explained everything. And I knew exactly who he meant, his mother, Linda Carter, the woman who had walked out of this town 10 years ago without saying goodbye to anyone, including her own son. I didn't think much of it. I definitely didn't expect that within 48 hours, she would look me dead in the eyes and say the 6 words that would completely shatter my understanding of my own life. "Daniel, we should get married." And here's the thing nobody tells you about a moment like that. It wasn't the strangest part. What she said next was, "Real quick, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, come on. It literally costs you nothing. Just hit that subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss what I'm putting out. And drop a comment. Where are you watching from?" I read every single one. Now let's get back in it. My name is Daniel Reeves, 29 years old, living in the same house I grew up in because after my dad died 3 years ago, I couldn't afford to leave it. I work odd jobs, fix cars on weekends, and every month I'm about $300 short of feeling like my life is actually moving forward. But let me paint you the full picture. My dad, Robert Reeves, was the kind of man people wrote speeches about at funerals. A mechanic, a deacon at the local church, a man who would give his last $20 to someone who needed it more. And he often did, which is why we never had much. When he died, he left me the house, 1 truck, and a lockbox I never opened. I kept telling myself I'd get to it. I never did. Marcus Thompson was my best friend from 2nd grade. We grew up 3 streets apart. His mother, Linda, was always the most composed woman in any room she entered. Beautiful, quiet, sharp. She ran a small accounting firm and wore blazers like armor. But she and Marcus's father had a complicated thing. Marcus never really talked about it. And one day, Marcus was 19, I was 19, Linda just left. No letter, no explanation, no goodbye to Marcus, just gone. Marcus pretended it didn't break him. I never pretended I believed him. For 10 years, Linda Carter was a closed chapter, a woman who existed somewhere in the world but not in ours, until she was. Marcus called me to his house that evening. He sounded nervous, which was unusual because Marcus didn't do nervous. He did sarcasm in basketball and occasionally crying at sports movies, but never nervous. When I got there, she was sitting at the kitchen table. And I want to be honest with you, Linda Carter did not look like a woman who had spent 10 years running from something. She looked like she had spent 10 years preparing. She was wearing a dark tailored coat. Her hair was different, pulled back, elegant. And her eyes, I don't know how to explain it other than to say her eyes looked like someone who had survived something. She stood when I walked in, extended her hand. "Daniel," she said, "you look just like your father." Something about the way she said it made my chest tighten. "Thank you for coming," she said. I didn't even know I'd been invited to anything. Marcus was standing by the window with his arms crossed, staring at the floor like he was trying to process 17 different emotions at once. "Mom," he said quietly. "Just say it." She looked at me, and without any buildup, without any softening, she said it. "Daniel, I think we should get married." The room went completely silent. I remember thinking, did I hear that correctly? And then Marcus actually laughed. That nervous laugh people do when they have no idea how else to respond. "See? That's what she said to me too." Word for word. I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Mrs. Carter?" "I know how it sounds," she said. "I'm not asking you to say yes tonight. I'm asking you to listen." Here's what I was thinking in that moment. I was thinking she had lost her mind, or she was sick, or she needed a green card, which didn't make sense because she was born in Ohio, or this was some elaborate manipulation that I couldn't see the shape of yet. Marcus later told me those were his first 4 thoughts too, in that exact order. But what Linda said next wasn't any of those things. "Before I left," she said, settling back into her chair, "I went to see your father." I stiffened. Robert knew I was leaving. He was the only person I told. She paused. "Let that land." And he asked me something. He said, "Linda, if something ever happens to me, if Daniel ever ends up alone, will you look out for him?" I felt something strange move through my chest. "I made that promise," she said softly. "Your father was a good man, Daniel. He helped me in ways I can never fully repay. And when I heard he passed, I felt that pull, that promise. But I wasn't ready yet. I wasn't safe yet." "Safe from what?" I asked. She looked at me for a long moment. "That's the part that requires more explanation." Over the next hour, she gave me the outline. After leaving our town, Linda had gone back to her family, the Carters of Richmond, Virginia, a name she had deliberately hidden from everyone in our community, because the Carter family wasn't just a family. They were a dynasty, private equity, international imports, 4 generations of wealth that had compounded into something so large that even the family members who weren't involved in the business were effectively millionaires just by existing within it. Linda had left that world as a young woman, married Marcus's father, built a quiet life, tried to escape the pressure and the politics and what she called the Carter way of doing things. But 6 months ago, her uncle, the patriarch who ran everything, had passed away, and he had left a will. I'm going to need you to stay with me here, because this is where it gets complicated. The will was structured in a way that nobody expected. The Carter estate, properties across 7 states, 2 international businesses, holdings worth somewhere between $800 million and $1.2 billion, was not to be distributed equally among the Carter heirs. It was to be held in a family trust, managed jointly by 2 people, the first name Linda Carter. The second name, and this is the part that had Linda sitting in Marcus's kitchen looking at me with calm, serious eyes, Daniel Reeves. My name, in a dead billionaire's will, written there before I had any idea any of this existed. Hold on, I need to stop right here, because if you haven't liked this video yet, please do it now. It genuinely helps more people find stories like this. And wherever you're watching from tonight, whether that's Atlanta, London, Lagos, Toronto, drop it in the comments. I love seeing where you all are. Okay, back to the story. I didn't sleep that night. I kept hearing the name, Daniel Reeves, written in a will for a family I had never met, for a fortune I had never touched, by a man I had never known. How? Why? And then I remembered the lockbox, the one my father left behind, the one I had never opened. I drove home at 2 a.m. and I found it at the back of his closet exactly where it had always been, brown metal, small padlock, and written on a piece of masking tape in my father's handwriting, for Daniel, when it's time. My hands were shaking when I cut the lock off. Inside, a folded letter, and a photograph. The photograph was of my father, young, maybe 25, standing with a man I didn't recognize. They were smiling, arms around each other like brothers. The letter was from my father. I'm not going to read you the whole thing. Some of it was personal. Some of it made me cry in a way I'm not going to describe to a camera. But the relevant part, the part that answered the question I didn't know I was asking, said this. The man in that photo is Gerald Carter. We grew up together. He was my closest friend before life pulled us in different directions. I helped him once, in a way that cost me everything I had at the time and that I have never regretted. He promised me he would never forget. And he was a man who kept his word. If you're reading this, Daniel, it means I'm gone. And Gerald kept his promise. Don't be afraid of what he left you. You earned it by being my son. I sat on that floor for a long time. My father had a whole history I never knew about. A friendship that crossed into wealth I never imagined. A promise made in the past that was now landing on my front door in the present. And Linda Carter, this woman I had known as simply Marcus's mom, had been the bridge all along. But here's what Linda hadn't told me yet. The reason she'd been gone for 10 years wasn't just about leaving the Carter family politics behind. The reason she came back now, the reason this was urgent, was darker than I understood. Because 3 of Gerald Carter's other relatives had already challenged the will. And 2 of them, a cousin named Ray Carter and his brother Dennis, had made it very clear through channels that weren't quite legal that they intended to take what they believed was theirs. Linda had already received 2 anonymous threats since returning to the country. And I, without knowing it, had been in danger the moment my name appeared in that will.
The next morning, Linda brought a lawyer. His name was Patterson, 50-something, quietly expensive suit, the kind of calm that came from 30 years of sitting across from very bad people. He walked me through the basics. The trust required 2 co-executors. Linda and I together, we controlled the estate. Neither of us alone could make major decisions without the other's agreement. And the marriage clause? I asked. Patterson looked at Linda. Linda looked at me. Gerald was old-fashioned, she said. He believed in partnerships. He believed in commitment. He wrote in the will that for the co-executors to have full legal standing to activate and manage the trust, they needed to be legally united, married, or in a formally registered domestic partnership. Marcus, who was sitting in the corner, said flatly, Grandpa Gerald was extra. Marcus, Linda said, I'm just saying. Patterson cleared his throat. The clause isn't unprecedented. It's unconventional, but it's legally binding. I leaned back in my chair, so that was it. No marriage, no full access to the trust, which meant Ray and Dennis Carter could stall, manipulate, and potentially absorb the estate through prolonged legal battles. And Linda, brilliant, composed Linda, had done the math. She needed someone she trusted, someone whose name was already in the will, someone who wouldn't be bought or scared away. She needed me. The question was, did I need her? I took 3 days to decide. During those 3 days, 2 things happened that made the decision for me. The first, Marcus's car was broken into. His laptop, the one with work files, not personal ones, as if someone was searching for something specific, was stolen. Nothing else was touched. The second, a man I didn't recognize, stood outside my house for 40 minutes one evening, then walked away when I came outside. I didn't think much of it that night. The next morning, I found a note under my windshield wiper. It said, walk away from the Carter estate. You don't belong in this. That was the moment the fear became very, very real. But here's what fear does to me, and I've learned this about myself over the years. It makes me stubborn. I called Linda. I'm in, I said. Silence on the other end of the line. Then are you sure? Tell me what we need to do.
We didn't do a ceremony. It was a Thursday morning at the county clerk's office. Linda in a gray dress. Me in the only blazer I owned, the one I'd bought for job interviews. Marcus is the witness, wearing a face that said, "I cannot believe this is my life." We signed the papers. The clerk congratulated us with the enthusiasm of someone who had said the word congratulations approximately 10,000 times that year. Linda squeezed my hand once, briefly, professionally, and just like that, I was married to my best friend's mother. The surreal thing about that day wasn't the marriage itself. It was what happened 3 hours later, Patterson called. Ray and Dennis Carter had filed an emergency motion to freeze the trust, claiming Linda was unfit to serve as co-executor due to her long absence from the family. It was a legal Hail Mary, but it had teeth. They found out fast, I said. They have people watching, Linda said. She wasn't surprised. But we moved first. The marriage is registered. The trust is now active. They can file whatever they want. They're reacting to us now. For the first time since this whole thing started, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Relief. Over the next 6 weeks, Patterson and his team went to work. And what they found, buried in the financial records of the Carter estate, was worse than anyone expected. Ray and Dennis hadn't just been planning to challenge the will. For the past 3 years, while their Uncle Gerald was sick and declining, they had been systematically draining the estate. Shell companies, fraudulent vendor contracts, transfers disguised as management fees. Somewhere between $40 and $60 million moved quietly, methodically, into accounts that Ray and Dennis controlled. Gerald Carter hadn't written his will the way he did because he was sentimental. He had written it that way because he knew his own family was stealing from him. And he had chosen the one woman he trusted to expose it, and paired her with the son of the one man he knew would never be bought. The deposition happened on a Wednesday. Ray Carter walked in wearing a confident smile. Dennis sat beside him, arms folded. Their attorney made the opening argument. Linda's absence, my lack of connection to the family, the unconventional nature of the marriage. Then Patterson put the financial records on the screen. The smile disappeared from Ray's face so fast it was almost comical. $47 million. 33 shell companies. Transactions going back 36 months. Dennis leaned over and whispered something to their attorney. The attorney whispered back. Ray's jaw worked silently. It took 4 minutes for them to ask for a recess. It took 11 days for them to settle. Ray and Dennis Carter signed agreements admitting to fraudulent misappropriation of estate assets. Both faced civil liability. Both faced potential criminal referral. The Carter Family Trust, fully intact, fully activated, fully legal, passed to its rightful co-executors, Linda Carter and Daniel Reeves. I'm going to tell you what that felt like from where I was standing. 6 months before this, I was at a gas station with $11 deciding between food and gas. And now I was sitting in a boardroom in Richmond, Virginia, looking at a document that listed my name as co-executor of an estate that included 4 luxury residential properties across Virginia, Georgia, and New York, a commercial real estate portfolio generating 8 figures annually, an international import business operating in 3 countries, investment holdings valued at over $600 million. My father, a mechanic from a small town who gave his last $20 to people who needed it, had a friendship that changed my entire life. And Linda Carter, a woman I once thought of only as Marcus's mom, had kept a promise to a dead man with more integrity than most people keep promises to the living. Linda and I are not in love. I want to be clear about that because the real story is better than that version. What we are is partners, built on something older and more reliable than romance, built on a promise, on shared risk, on the fact that we both showed up when everything was uncertain. Marcus, my best friend, now my stepson technically, a fact he has not forgiven me for, jokes about it constantly. Every time I see him, he calls me Dad in the most sarcastic voice imaginable, and then immediately cracks up. I'll take it. My father's lockbox sits on my desk now. The photograph, him and Gerald Carter, young and grinning, is in a frame next to it. He always told me that the way you treat people when you have nothing is exactly the investment that pays off when you least expect it. He was right. He's always right, even from wherever he is now. Here's what I want to ask you, and I genuinely want to know what you think. Daniel's father helped a friend with everything he had and never asked for anything in return. That friendship, decades later, changed his son's entire life. The question is, do you believe that what you give in silence always comes back? Or was this just rare luck that most people will never see? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm serious. Tell me what you think. And hey, if you made it all the way here, you clearly rock. So do one last thing for me. If you're still not subscribed, I promise you, it takes 2 seconds and it costs you absolutely nothing. Just hit subscribe and the bell. You'll never miss a story. And share this one. Somebody in your life needs to hear it today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next